All right, good afternoon, everyone, once again. Welcome to this session, a quick orientation to Zoom. Could you let me know if you are seeing the red record button blinking at it should be at the top left side?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay, great. So it's being recorded. Just making sure, because I'm sharing my screen, so I wouldn't be able to really see. So yes, as I was saying, welcome to this session. I know we have quite a few persons who are scheduled to be with us this afternoon, and seeing, of course, most of us are already here. So we can get straight into it because I don't want to take too much of your time. And so right off the bat, we're gonna start with an icebreaker. Anybody? Oh, you're not hearing me? Is everyone hearing me properly?
Hearing you.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna put a couple links in the chat. What I need you to do, please, is to click on each link, and I'd like you to answer the questions as honestly as possible. Of course, it's not personal. It's just something that might be, that you might find very insightful. So it's a quick poll in terms of your self-assessment regarding technology use for teaching and learning and so on. All right. So already we see at least, okay, so it's 50-50 so far. All right, so we're seeing, has your technology changed between pre-COVID and now? And for most people, 88% thus far, they're saying yes. 13% or now 11%, okay, 9% with I don't know. And I think that says a lot right there, yeah? So, okay, so we know our technology use has changed. What technology tools have you used in your teaching practice or educational context prior to COVID-19? Right, someone already said Blackboard Collaborate. And I'll go back to the previous slide just in case the results have changed. All right, or if anyone posted their responses late. So far Blackboard Collaborate, right? I'm assuming My Learning, yeah? Oh, Edmodo, okay, good. Right, My Learning. I see someone said Canvas, good. Feel free to click on the link, screencasting. Okay, some of us are quite adventurous. Nice. My e-learning. So far it's mostly My Learning and Blackboard Collaborate, right? Someone said My Learning and Zoom. Okay, good. And Blackboard Collaborate and Edmodo. Nice, let me just go back to the previous slide. Okay, the results remain the same. Blackboard Collaborate, My Learning, Google, and various social media tools. Good. So we have quite a range. And of course, the prevalent ones seem to be Blackboard Collaborate. And that's understandable because Blackboard Collaborate it's housed in My Learning. It was launched as the campus's main platform for synchronous and asynchronous virtual classroom classes. So that's understandable. And of course, Zoom has emerged along the way, of course, in response to the whole COVID dispensation, yeah? So as we move forward, were you comfortable using those tools in your educational context? 100% said yes so far, which is good. So you're comfortable using My Learning, you're comfortable using Blackboard. And of course, for those of you who may have used screencasting software or Edmodo or a Google platform or application, by all means, you seem to be very comfortable with that. So that's good. That's good news. Yeah. And you know, the thing is, if you've used Blackboard Collaborate before, I think Zoom should be quite an easy feat. Zoom is a lot more user-friendly. It's a little more stable than, let's say, Blackboard and so on, and some of the other platforms. And of course, for those of you who may have ventured into Zoom a little bit or dabbled in it a little bit, you would probably realize that, right? It's a little more compatible with certain devices and browsers and so on. So what are the hindrances that you encountered so far? Some people said internet connection. Yes, these outside polls. I'm sorry for that, David. All right. Let me just post the links in the chat again. All right. So yes, so those are the links that persons are responding to the question. So, and this is really a platform called Poll Everywhere that we can merge and that you could merge into your PowerPoint presentations. And of course, if you need any sort of insight in terms of how to do it, I can just give you a quick walkthrough. You can just send me an email, but it's a nice, and of course you could do polls in Zoom. So both ways it works, yeah? So anyway, so, right, so some hindrances, I'd said, as some person said earlier, internet connection, unfamiliarity, okay, good. Shuffling between various screens and functions, students dipping in and out, right? So that would speak also to internet connection. Right, unreliable internet and electricity supply, lack of equipment by students, the learning curve for students. Just let me speak to that one. This one with the equipment and the learning curve and so on for students. There are several support avenues that you could provide for them, mainly DSSD. I know the campus has started somewhat of an initiative to rent or well, not loan, but to sort of lend students computers and so on, and they're under particular parameters to bring them back and that kind of thing to facilitate students in this current dispensation. Yeah, so if that issue comes up, you can refer them to the DSSD. So right, so we have the lack of familiarity with regard to the software, shuffling between screens and functions. Just give me one moment to answer that, yeah? And it's a quick, because it's something that will come along later on in this particular session, but it's a very quick trick that, that I've been using for years and years and years now. A good way to switch between various screens would be, if you look at your keypad, you will see on the left of the space key, right? Otherwise known as, well, some people call it ALT or Alt. You click on that and you click on Tab. And you hold down Alt and you click on Tab, and Tab would allow you to go to different screens. Every time you click on Tab, it takes you to whatever screen that you want to go to. All right, so that's a good way. Hopefully that helps. I'm not sure who said it, but please let me know if that's helpful. You could try it on your machine if you can right now. And that's a good way, and I think everybody should try it actually, to when you have multiple screens open and you want to share a screen and that sort of thing. Right, if you're using, thank you so much for that, David. If you're using a Mac, I think it's Command. It'll always be next to the space key on the left side. It'll be Command and the same key as, I think it's the same as on a Mac with regard to Tab. All right. Thanks, Lynn, something new, no problem. Alt and Tab would, right. So it's a good way to switch between screens and you don't have to stop and look for, you know, sometimes I know that could be a bit, it could throw you off when you have to find the page that you're looking for. So that is something that hopefully will help you as well. Figuring out how to maximize the features of Blackboard and the internet connection. I like that, that's a very good one. Because there hasn't been really training in Blackboard as this platform. I think training in Blackboard, really, the Open Campus offered some seminars on it. And for the sake of Zoom, because, you know, Zoom was something that came up due to the pandemic, of course, you know, it was just necessary. Yeah, so at least we wouldn't leave you in the water to sink. All right, so let's move on to some of these, the rest of these unreliable internet. Someone said some hindrances. Good. All right, so let's go forward. Have you ever used Zoom? I'm sorry for the typo there. 91% said yes, 9% said no. Okay, fair enough. So that makes it even, and even those of, from what I've gathered, those of you who have used Zoom, of course, I would assume you'd like to know more, yeah? And I see Indra is asking, would you do some training in Blackboard Collaborate? Sure, that is in the pipeline, Indra. And that should come around sometime in September, early September. Yeah, is that okay? So yeah, great. So I didn't want to do it back to back because it could be a little confusing with the learning curve to get acclimatized to this and then to, you know, at Blackboard, and then, you know, you want to know which one to use and so on. Now I do refer to Blackboard in this particular session because I know Blackboard is something that most of us will be familiar with. All right, so I will just kind of draw comparisons here and there. So it'll be a point of reference for us. So for this session, we're gonna look at creating a Zoom session. And I'm not sure if we have any technicians here or administrators here who may be, yes, who may be the ones responsible for setting up certain Zoom sessions and so on. Now I'm saying this because the way your room is configured will influence what you can and cannot do in your live session, some of the features in Zoom, all right? Now, by default, some of these have not been enabled, and that's why I'm saying that, yeah? So some things you wouldn't be able to do unless they're enabled, and it's not a big thing, it's just to go in the settings of the meeting or the account and allow it and so on. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So if there are no technicians or administrators here, at least you can tell them, okay, this is what I want to do, this is how it's done, yeah? And hopefully that could help. We'll also look at the ways in which students can be engaged in a Zoom session. So it wouldn't be just you disseminating information, but it'll also be, I'll try to show you some ways in which it could be as close as possible to one of your face-to-face sessions, yeah? Because there are different activities, and similar to Blackboard, of course, there are different things that you can use or features you can use to engage your students in a Zoom session. And of course, accessing a Zoom recording, you're going to look at that. And let me just go back to number 2, and I think that's in the next slide actually. Some of the things we're going to look at more specifically would be, of course, creating a Zoom session, how to, you know, some of the settings that you might want to implement, how you begin it, and some of you might be familiar with it. Of course, you pull up your PowerPoint and whatnot, right? And if I'm seeing in the comment, if your department doesn't have a Zoom license, feel free to write to because I believe every faculty should have a, and I'm not saying that as in supposed to, I mean like, it was confirmed. So I think it's just a matter of communication. Okay, if the department doesn't have it, then you might need to liaise with somebody in that faculty, preferably the LAN administrator. Whoever your LAN administrator is, that person would know who is responsible for managing that particular license or account. Yeah, no problem. All right, so we're gonna look at, of course, setting it up, sharing the link and so on. And a lot of the time as well is gonna be spent in terms of engagement, doing your presentation, and engagement. They kind of fold into each other, all right? Part of that would also be using polls and breakout rooms and that sort of thing, internal features that are internal to the Zoom platform and things that you can, external features or external platforms that you can integrate. So for example, case in point, the polls that I just did, those were from a platform called Poll Everywhere, all right? And yeah, so that's an external platform to Zoom, right? I just prefer Poll Everywhere because it's a little more visually captivating, yeah? So anyway, so we can move forward, and of course we're going to look at the recording of the session, how to share it, how to access it, and some tips on the way, regarding the way forward. So right off the bat, we're going to go into setting up a Zoom session. Now, if we do not have administrators here, I'm hoping that you could probably share this information with them. And by the way, yes, the recording will be shared with you. What I will do is, of course, once the recording is following post-production, basically, I can have the link shared with you. Or if you would prefer not to have the recording, you could just send an email to me to ask for the link, and I'll share it with you. All right, so right off the bat, of course, a Zoom account is required. We know this. All right, and there are different features or different licenses, so to speak, right? So those are the three things you need to have: the account, and of course, the importance of a host, if you are not creating the session yourself. So for example, I think someone said that they use the free version. So that might be a personal account you use, yes? The free version that has the 40-minute limit, correct? Right, so that would be your account more than likely. So with this particular, once you use a campus-based, a campus-based license or account, of course, that 40-minute limit is no longer applicable, yeah? Right, a couple of people use the free version because you have to do what you have to do to get by, right? And so I understand using the free version, but I'm pretty sure that using the free version, you know, the 40-minute limit and some other things that may not be, features that may not come with that, could be a little bit restrictive. And of course, it kind of ties you to just disseminating information. And that may not necessarily be the most engaging live virtual session, yeah? So, but of course, like I said, you have to do what you have to do to make things happen. So I totally understand using the free version, but hopefully, well, based on this session, you know that you could easily access have a license, a university license. At least each faculty should have one, and right, and it's right. So you can also pay for it. Yes, right. You can have a personal one, and of course, it's a I think not a monthly, but either a monthly or an annual fee that you have to pay, right? Depending on the version that you use. All right. So once you have an account, whether it's your personal account, a university account, or license, whatever that may be, to create a meeting, and I'm sure Harold, for example, could probably explain. I wouldn't put you on the spot, Harold, but and Mina, but it's very simple. So once you log into Zoom.
Thank you, Justin.
Once you log into your Zoom account, all right, you click on My Account, and I guess, Harold, you could tell me if I'm wrong, yeah?
Yes. Okay.
All right. So once you log into your Zoom account, you click on My Account, and it's right there in the graphic. And that account will reveal a new page, and that new page will have a column on the left side. And as you see in the graphic on this particular graphic here on the right side, that menu on the left side opens up, where you would see profile, meetings, recordings, etc., etc. Now, some of these we will go into in just a bit, because these things kind of, like I said, the settings of your account, for example, would influence what you can and cannot do in your Zoom sessions. So right, so you go to my account, you click on meetings, and then you click on schedule meetings or schedule a meeting. All right. Good question, David. Are the faculties mandated to share a Zoom account with lecturing staff? I don't think they will necessarily share the account per se, because I mean, you can't have multiple persons sharing one account because it could get a bit messy. But what they are supposed to do is share the link to your session at least. All right. And I was suggesting that because you know, you don't get to necessarily manage the account per se, but you would need to let them know that, listen, you want to use breakout rooms, so this needs to be enabled, right? So when they send you the link comes, and the meeting would be, you know, set in such a way that it would allow you to use breakout rooms. It would allow you to use polls. It would allow you to you know, do different things. Yeah. So, so yeah, so you could let whoever's managing the account, whichever technician or administrator, let them know that these are the things that you want. Whether you use them or not is up to you, of course, in your session, but you probably would want to have them in the event that you need to use them. Yeah. Any other questions on that before I move on? No? Okay. So yes, so you click on schedule a meeting, and then this page pops up here. All right, schedule a meeting, as you see on the left side there, and of course it takes you to this page, a page that looks like this on the right side, where you would set the details of your meeting. So let's say, yes, definitely. All right, so let's say, for example, you have your lecture at whatever time regularly. You could let your administrator know, and that sort of thing. All right. So this is just the back end, so you know how to inform your administrator. Following that, you would also want to you know, set the options, the meeting options, if you want to mute participants on entry, which is recommended. If you would like your students to join before you, all right, that is up to you as well. And then of course you click save. All right. After that, of course, you know, well, I think most of you would know this part. You copy the invitation, or at least you might be more interested in just getting the link. All right. And that's it, of sharing the link with your students. Okay. Now, in some instances, the host can add you as the manager of your account. And this is also back to David's question, can make you the host of the meeting as well, which would allow you to do anything in your meeting. So that is also something to consider. All right, and I would recommend that you are made the host of your, or co-host of your particular class. All right, so so that is just a quick overview of how to set up a Zoom session, some of the back-end things that you might need to be aware of. All right, so let's go straight into the next couple things that we're going to look at. Of course, you're going to know, of course, you have your documents prepared, whatever that might be, you open them up, you set them. If you're using a Microsoft PowerPoint, for example, you probably want to go into, I would recommend that you go to your PowerPoint document, go into presentation mode, all right? Or you can open up your Zoom session, then you go open up your PowerPoint, and then of course you use that same command or alt and tab feature that I made mention of earlier in this session. All right. And that way it pulls up when you share your screen. Okay, so let me back up. So you open up your document, your PowerPoint, you open up your Zoom meeting. All right. Then you go into presentation mode in your PowerPoint. And then you use the Alt and Tab, or the Command and Tab feature that I mentioned earlier, and pull up your Zoom meeting. And then you click Share Screen. All right? And that way, it's a seamless transition into your meeting. And these are just some little nitty-gritties in terms of joining a meeting. Of course, sometimes you might have a personal ID. Sometimes that may not be applicable. And you click join. I assume by now you know how to join, how to, you know, add audio and video when necessary. And some of the other things that you would notice, even in this particular session, you would be able to see some of the participants. And if you look at the graphic on the right side, if you are the host, it would allow you to join, to invite others, to switch, give participants certain privileges. Let's say you want your students to present in your class, then you can do that, which I'll get into in a bit. Of course, share screen and that sort of thing. And the process I just mentioned, of course, is on the left side. Once you pull up your PowerPoint and you go into presentation mode, you share screen and click the record button. Right, so to record your session, and I'm assuming that because sometimes your session may not, the host can set it that it records automatically, or the host might leave it up to you, whoever the administrator is. Either way, I'm just showing you where the record button is. It's usually on the right side of the share screen icon. And most of you would see it on this platform. You would notice when you hover, when your cursor is hovering at the bottom of the screen, you would see a menu, a floating menu basically pop up. Whether you want to chat, whether you want to see who are the other participants or the students in your session, and of course, the record. Once you hit the record button, you would see the red bulb almost flashing, which you're seeing now. And of course, at any point in time, you can pause the recording and resume. And this is one way in which it is differentiated from Blackboard Collaborate. With Blackboard Collaborate, when you stop recording, when you pause the recording, well, first of all, you can't pause it. When you stop the recording, it saves as a separate individual recording. With Zoom, you could pause it. Let's say you need to get a drink, you know, take a sip of water, or, you know, a personal issue or a sensitive topic has emerged that you may not want to have recorded. You can pause the recording, deal with what you need to deal with, and then resume. I think we have a question in the chat here. Let's say if I would like to have a one-on-one with students, will you have a different meeting with separate? That is like a virtual office hour, correct? That is possible as well. You could, now Zoom could be set as, let's say, and that's a very good question. In this current dispensation, I mean, you can't have face-to-face office hours. Zoom, however, can have recurring meetings. So let's say, for example, this session, if this was a one-on-one office hour, so to speak, then I could set this for every week on every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Yeah, and whether students indicate, you know, they want to meet or not, at least you know that's your office hour. So yes, that's a good question. So you could set, use Zoom to set your lecture times, of course, and of course, a separate something for your lectures, for your office hours. All right, does that answer your question? Okay, great. So, or somewhat, do you want to give further details that I could probably clarify? Anyone has any questions so far? Paula, you raise your hand, go ahead.
Can I use the microphone?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Regarding these recurrent meetings, I know that Zoom has the option of allowing a person in the session. So you set that up when you set up the meeting, or you can change that setting along the course. Like, for example, if I set up my office hours every Monday at 2 p.m. Yep. But I have a separated document where I schedule my students, the ones that I'm going to see during that time. But let's say I have a student 1 from 1 to 1:30, but student 2 from 1:30 to 2. If student 2 wants to come in the meeting before then, I know he can be placed in a waiting, like a waiting room.
Yes.
And when I finish with my first student, then I will let the second one
Allowing
in the meeting.
Yeah.
So would that be better instead of setting one meeting for each student? And if I want to set that up, do I do it the first time when I set the meeting, or is it like a setting that I can change?
Right.
After.
I think that's a very good question and a suggestion as well. A very good suggestion for everyone here that you know, so you mean it'll give you less headache on your part because you wouldn't have to create different meetings for every student. And you wouldn't have to create different links and different, you know, rooms and so on. So that could also work. To do that, whoever's creating the session, this is where the administrator, of course, comes in, or whoever's managing the account will have to enable a waiting room. So that way, you know, if you share the link with certain persons from whatever time to whatever time, then whoever's joining, let's say you're dealing with student 1 and student 2 is, you know, coming on board, then student 2 can remain in the waiting room until you allow him or her to enter the main room. So yes, that is an option. With regard to creating it or the logistics of it, no, you wouldn't need to set up different rooms. What I would recommend is ensure that the time is open or is long enough for you to meet, you know, both students. So for example, if you were supposed to meet with student 1 from 1 to 2 and student 2 from 2 to 3, and student 2 came in earlier, let's say by 1:30, you don't want the meeting to end at 2 where it cuts the meeting with student 2 short, yeah? So I would recommend if you have that, then by all means, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that. And I'm seeing in the chat, if it's different days and times with different students, right? I think that's, yeah. Right? So yes, definitely the waiting room is a viable option, I think. If it is that you set different times, let's say one particular afternoon or 2 particular afternoons in the week, whatever that may be, you set a window of time and use that waiting room feature, right? Right, good question. The waiting room needs to be set up, all right? So for example, in this particular session, you didn't have to join a waiting room because I unticked that option, yeah? So it's a basic thing. And now if you want, and it's good that you're asking this so you know what to tell whoever's setting it up. Tell them what you would like, that you want students to be in a waiting room, that you want to be made the host of the session, or at least the co-host, and that the session is a recurring, you know, time, right? So those are some of the things you want to make sure that you have in advance. All right, great, no problem. So as we move on very quickly, I think I was just telling you about the recording. And you can also make participants, you can also share privileges. So you can enable participants to record the session. All right. Okay, I'm seeing a question. Yes, it can. It can work for doctor conferencing and so on, yes. Of course, it'll take a little bit of organizing, you know, when persons join and that, you know, scheduling, so to speak. Not scheduling in terms of the session, but scheduling in terms of who has access to this, who's allowed to enter the session at what particular time, yeah? So All right, guys. So with regard to allowing participants different privileges, this can be easily done. It's very simple. If you look at the, let me just make somebody a participant thing here. So Paula, I'm going to make you a co-host. All right. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm also going to make Harold a co-host. I'm also going to make, and you would know when you made a co-host, you would see a little thing pop up, thing on your screen, in the middle of your screen. Yeah? Okay, so I think I added Harold, Paula as co-hosts. All right. So here's what I want you to do, guys. I want you to, so you've been made a co-host. I want you to pause the session. I want you to pause the session. Now you would notice when you are made co-host, you can, certain privileges or buttons would appear. So let me see. Paula, could you pause the session, the recording? When you hover at the bottom of the screen, you should see.
Yes.
Right. And that's one way you can do it. Let me try it with someone else as well. Paula, could you pause the recording? Let me know if you're seeing the button at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Okay, great. So it's done, right?
Yeah.
And this is one way in which you could allow students certain privileges. Now, let's say you have, you want students to present in your particular session, all right? Paula, could you make, could you send, or Jillian, anyone, I want you to, no, I don't want you to throw my presentation off. Click on the share screen feature, right? Click on the share screen feature and let us know, what do you see?
It says this will stop others' screens sharing. Do you want to continue?
Right.
And it gives you the option to click yes or no.
Right. And no, don't click yes. But yes, so this is, it's as simple as that, guys. Now, you would notice when you click on the participants list, so that list would be at the bottom of the screen. Usually it's at the bottom of the screen. All right, for some people it might be at the top, but it's still, when you hover, when the cursor is hovering at the bottom of the screen or at the top of the screen, you're gonna see that menu. And you would see, is everyone seeing like participants with like two, you know, an icon with like 29 next to it?
Yes.
Right, and when you click on that, you are able to see all of the students who are, and you know, other persons who would be, who have joined your session or who are tuning in. And then you would also see where you can click. If you go next to someone's name, I'm assuming, let's say, Jillian, when you go next to someone's name, what are you seeing when you hover over someone's name?
It asks me, it gives me the option to ask to unmute or more options, which could be either chat or ask to start video. Very good.
Now, if you were made the host of the, as opposed to like a co-host, then you could even, you have more privileges, all right? It would allow you to, of course, well, we know the share screen feature, but it would allow you to do more things privilege. So that's one of the differences between a co-host and a host. It's almost like, you know, between a program coordinator versus a course lecturer, yeah, so to speak. You have similar functions or privileges, but of course, the host kind of could do almost anything in the session, yeah? So for example, if you were the host, you could make somebody else a co-host. So let me add, let me go down the list a little bit and Chanel?
Hello.
All right, great. So I'm gonna make you the host, is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. So tell me, what do you see when you click on the participants list and you hover over someone's name?
Okay, when I click on the participants list, I would see unmute or more.
Great. And when you click on more, what do you see?
Having clicked on more, it has the menu shows chat, ask to start video, make host, make co-host, allow recorder, rename, put in a room, and remove.
Great. So you see right, so you could do anything in the course, in the session, correct? So
yes.
What I want you to do is click on hover over my name, and I want you to make me the host now. Because I just gave my privileges to you. Now I'm asking you to give it back to me, please.
Okay.
So you click on more when you get to my name.
Yes.
Right, you'll see more, and you would see make host.
Okay, make host and click. Okay.
All right. So that is just a very quick walkthrough of how you can give students different privileges. I would recommend that you don't give students the host privilege, because then that could, you know, jeopardize your session. So make them the co-host. If it's, you know, that would allow them to share screen, that would allow them to, you know, do what they need to do within that particular session. All right, without ending it, without stopping the recording and so on. Is the recording still on, by the way? Is it still recording?
Yes.
Okay, great. So any questions on that? I see David said, if these options are available on smartphones and tablets, which students might use. In terms of what? Making these students co-hosts? Yes, yes. Now remember, let me just back up, modify that a little bit. When you, when students are joining a Zoom session, they have to download the Zoom app. All right, so everything will work, and because it's cloud-based, almost everything is done on the cloud. So it's not, it wouldn't really be affected as much by the configuration, the local configuration of the device. No, there are some exceptions. There are very few devices, and I'm saying this just so you know the pros and cons. There are very few devices that Zoom may be a little bit, a little incompatible or troublesome with. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the student cannot access a Zoom session. It just means maybe on that particular device, it's set in such a way that you can't access Zoom. All right, or you can't download the app or whatnot. But that is in that's really on rare occasions. All right, let's say for example, some smartphones, very few smartphones, I've seen it occur. Let's say for example, on a Huawei device, not all Huawei devices, just, you know, some of the earlier ones, all right, they tend to be a little more, a little moody, let me say that, yeah? But generally on all smart and Android devices, it should be compatible. All right, even if the privileges are switching in the meeting, once the student is able to join the meeting, you can give the student any sort of privilege that you see fit to make them a co-host, for example, and the buttons therein. Does that answer your question, David?
Yes.
Right, great. Now, if the student has problems accessing the actual Zoom meeting, remember you can also record the session. So that would give a sort of a contingency plan, for lack of a better word. All right. But in terms of compatibility between this and Blackboard, this is of course more compatible. Let's say, for example, I know Blackboard could be very problematic on a lot of devices. It could be, and not just the hardware devices, but also on certain software such as browsers. So for example, Blackboard Collaborate, you may not get on to a Blackboard Collaborate meeting on, let's say if you're using Safari, if you have a Mac or Internet Explorer, it's usually recommended to use Google Chrome. There's another, I think sometimes Firefox may work, but yeah, so just keep those things in mind, all right? So I'm just telling you the pros and cons that I think you might need to be aware of. So, very few things will catch you by surprise. All right. Go ahead. I'm here. Come on.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you say you're doing a tutorial and you have 3 presenters, would you recommend that we actually click that little arrow near the share screen and allow people to share their screen and do their presentations? In this way, we don't have to go in and out with co-hosts and so on.
Right.
Would you recommend that?
If you have 3 persons.
3 persons to present one after the other. And would you allow them then to share their screen? Would you recommend that by clicking that arrow near this share screen there, which allows multiple sharing?
Right. Yes, I will. I think, you run a risk there. So I'm telling you yes in terms of efficiency and a smooth transition.
Right, absolutely.
But the risk that you run there would also be if students kind of interrupt each other's presentations.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because you can't have multiple, 3 persons cannot share 3 different screens at the same time, so to speak. I don't know if that makes sense in terms of like how we are sharing this screen here.
Right. So as host, you are calling people in to share. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I want to recommend that a little more just because I'm leaning on the side of classroom management.
Right.
Remember, it's a virtual platform, so it's not to say you could give somebody the look. And I don't know if some people, when you give people a look and they know, okay, this is wrong, let me stop.
Yes.
Virtually, you may not be able to do that. So you want to lean a little more on the side of not control, but just manage. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I understand both sides. So it's just, I guess, your decision to make. But I'm just kind of, highlighting.
Yeah, I actually used it this summer, and I found it very easy. It means it's kind of pretty smooth if you do it that way, but you have to have control over your students, really.
Yes, definitely.
So, although you're hesitant to use the word control, I think control is a good word.
Fair enough. It's fair enough. I don't mind the correction.
Yeah.
And of course, if it's a large class and these things, you want the size of your class and so on, you want to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Let me just say this as well as we mentioned this. Now, if your class is really large, let's say you have 200 plus students, or let's say 300. I know in some instances, classes can be very, very, very large. You may need to verify the size of the class that the Zoom session could facilitate. Just to be sure, because I know standard on this license, at least on this particular license, I think there's a limit to just about 100. But yeah, you might just want to make sure that is on point. I'm not sure if they extended it since, and that was way back in March or April. I'm not sure if they extended it since then, at least for this particular version of Zoom. I'm not sure if the faculties have a more expansive version. I'm seeing in the chat, will the university give us the license of Zoom? Right, so the university has given, to answer that, I was saying earlier that the university provided each faculty with a Zoom account, so to speak, or license. So not necessarily departments, but faculties. And I'm saying that because, you know, faculties have different departments, right? So what I would recommend is liaising with your LAN administrator or technician, whoever they might be, to ensure that your session is, a link is provided for your session, is created for your session, a room is created for your virtual session. And you should also let whoever's managing, or, you know, the LAN administrator or so on, let them know that you want to be made the host of your session, and that you would like to use certain features such as breakout rooms, which we'll get into in just a bit. Let me take this opportunity as well to emphasize, now I know this is something that I'm jumping the gun a little bit, we'll get into it, but for the sake of, you know, I'm leaning on this side now, to one of the ways in which you can engage students is to allow them to make annotations on your particular slide. It functions almost like the whiteboard in Blackboard Collaborate. All right. So let me click on annotate, and you should be able to see it. Are you? When you hover, you place the cursor anywhere in particular, at the top or bottom, and you should see a feature called with annotate. It's like a pencil. Yeah? And annotate allows you to make certain, you know, place text on the slideshow. Right. Let me get to that, David, in just a bit. What was I saying? Right. So the annotate feature allows you or the students to insert certain text and drawings or whatnot on the screen. So for example, if I say hello, and it pops up there. All right. So I want to invite you at this time to make an annotation while I respond to David's comments there. So to do that, is everyone seeing that? When you hover, I think for you it may be right. I'm not sure who wrote like this, but go ahead. So feel free and I'll explain where this is going in just a bit. Right, so you could put arrows, you could put graphics of different, you know, little things to highlight things here and there. So go ahead and do that while I respond to David's concern. So yes, David, you don't see it? Okay, great. I've seen several things. So to see it, Paula, and I guess Adele, this would write and Shova, you would see it, in your case, it may be at the hover, place the cursor at the top of the screen. All right. It may be at the very top or at the very bottom, that menu that keeps coming in and out.
View options.
View options.
View options.
View options.
Are you seeing it? Okay, great. I see somebody sending love there. Okay, great, great. Excellent. And thanks so much. I think that was Godfrey. All right.
Yes.
So let's say if you wanted to, let's say you're in the field of, or whatever field, it may not really matter. If you wanted to highlight a particular formula or a particular feature in a graphic of some sort, let's say I have this graphic here. I see someone wrote hi. I want you now to place an arrow on the next to rename. on the chat or anywhere for that matter. Just highlight something there. Adele, you found it, great. Right. So these are some ways in which you can engage your students. And I said it, I think I'll delve into that in just a bit. Let me just go back to a little higher up and see. Right, Adele, you got through. Right, with the campus principals memo. With regard to BBC, anything in particular that seemed at odds, David?
Yeah, he said everything should be done through Blackboard Collaborate. So I'm thinking they won't let you use Zoom. They'll use that as an excuse not to use Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I was discussing it with a colleague of mine who's not at this.
Mm-hmm.
He pointed out that in this memo that came out yesterday, there's a section, what was it? It's on delivery of lectures.
Mm-hmm.
Said for reasons of uniformity of presentation, everything should be done with Blackboard Collaborate.
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it. I remember reading it yesterday. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, use BBC stroke Moodle to ensure quality of delivery. I just raised that. Okay.
Yeah. Great. No problem. Now I read that memo as well. When you see Blackboard Collaborate /Moodle, or sorry, /MyLearning, it's because also Blackboard is housed in MyLearning. All right. So you could use Blackboard and you wouldn't have to share a link with anybody. It's all in there. Students will just go to, it's basically a one-stop shop. So it's MyLearning and Blackboard is in MyLearning. But in some cases, Blackboard may not have the, and I'm stating the pros and cons of it, may not have the, there are certain restrictions or limitations with Blackboard, yeah? And it's not going against the memo, yeah? It's just in some instances, and a lot of the persons here could chime in where necessary. There are some circumstances where Zoom has become the viable alternative. Now, Zoom is also a campus license, all right? So you're not outlawed, so to speak, for using Zoom, all right? I do know that in let's say, for example, in CLL, for example, some courses where MyLearning might be a problem, of course, Zoom has emerged as that vehicle, right? And look, Paula is also saying it, right? And there's also a strain, and I'm telling you this as well, there's also a strain on the BBC platform. And that's why I was kind of telling you in terms of the size of your class as well. For those of you who might be familiar with Blackboard and MyLearning, it could be a little problematic or glitchy. And you could say yes in the chat if you agree, if you've encountered those problems. You know, sometimes students cannot access Blackboard altogether. All right. So for ease of access and ease of use, of course, Zoom, which is also a campus, the university's conferencing platform, has been, for this reason, Zoom has been purchased basically. All right. And there are different changes that will come, and, you know, things are in the pipeline. But for now, of course, Zoom is a platform that they've provided us with, along with Blackboard. Right, Victor also said the same thing, David. So sometimes students may not be able to, even lecturers may not be able to use Zoom because of compatibility issues with their devices, but you still have to, you know, facilitate your class. So, you know, that is, and it's not that you're going rogue with a totally, you know, different external platform. It's a university-wide platform as well. All right. But what you should do is ensure that the recording your Blackboard, your Zoom recording, and even the link to that Zoom session should be placed in My Learning. Yeah? It's almost as if you do, you use a YouTube video and you want to bring it into My Learning. It's the same thing. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I see so I see, did somebody clear the annotations? I think one of the co-hosts did. Thank you so much. All right, great. So as we move forward, just to kind of give a recap so far. So we are at, I think, the midpoint. And this is where we're going to go into. And so in addition, so we looked at giving students different privileges. We looked at, yes, definitely. It's a lot more user-friendly. It's less glitchy. Now, I'm not bashing Blackboard because Blackboard is something, let me just say this as well. Thank you so much for that. Blackboard, you're going to get more support with regard to Blackboard because, well, obviously it's housed in My Learning. There's a lot, you're going to get that on campus, not on campus, but that university support or response, let me see, if something should go wrong with Blackboard. With Zoom, that may not necessarily be the case. You will get support for it in terms of, with the LAN administrator and the technician and so on, but it wouldn't be necessarily that we contact Blackboard Collaborate. We have someone, for example, who would, caters to our needs with regard to Blackboard Collaborate. So that's something to weigh as well, all right? But then the flip side of that is that Zoom gives a little less set of problems, yeah? And Daniela mentioned Microsoft Teams. That is actually what I was referring to, that things are in the pipeline. So Microsoft Teams may be the next, we may be transitioning to Microsoft Teams eventually, all right? But of course, when that time comes, of course, you're gonna get an orientation. It's not anytime soon. So when that time comes, of course, you're gonna get a training similar to this, and it will equip you for the way forward. Yeah? So I was saying that we looked at annotations. We looked at giving students different privileges so they can present, all right? And I was saying also that the annotations feature allows you to highlight certain things. Let's say it's a PDF that you are, an article of some sort, or even on your PowerPoint, it might be a formula of some sort. It is a lot more user-friendly and easier to read and control. For example, the text is a lot bigger than Blackboard Collaborate. So yes, if it's a formulaic sort of exercise, you can have students either type in their responses or, solve a particular equation of some sort, use a particular the sketch feature to the drawing feature, sorry, to sketch a graphic according to a particular formula of some sort, that kind of thing. Yes, that is, you're very correct, right? Because Teams 2 is not fully, has not been fully implemented. It's still in the pipeline. So it's still, we're not there yet, all right? So we're going to move more. So we dealt with engagement and making the student the presenter, but we're also going to go further into engagement. And these are some of the platforms or avenues through which you can engage students. Now, like I said before, you have in-house, and when I say in-house, features that are internal to the Zoom platform, such as breakout rooms, polls, annotations, as we saw earlier, of course, class discussions, presentations, so you can make them the co-hosts, etc. And then you have external things that you could incorporate, such as Poll Everywhere, which I did at the very beginning of this session. Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to look at would be, in particular, polls and breakout rooms. So let me just go through the different things, the instructions. So for a breakout room, this has to be enabled from the back end, right? The back end of things. So whoever's creating your session or managing the account must enable breakout rooms to be used. By default, you will not be able to do it. By default, the setting is would not enable breakout rooms. All right, so you must ensure, liaise with your LAN administrator or whoever's managing the Zoom account. This is definitely something you want to look into in advance. So the first step, of course, is really familiar with this page, is your account homepage and the settings tab, and you click in meeting advanced. It's not something that a lot of people are aware of, which is why I'm going through it. So you click on advanced, and you basically scroll down a little bit, but you're gonna see this particular feature, breakout room. All right, and at the right side, it's gonna be a little blue button at the side where you enable it or disable it. By default, it's disabled. So whoever's managing the account has to go in and enable it. All right, fair enough? Right, so, sorry, let me just pay attention to the chat. Yes, definitely, Godfrey. I mean, I made mention to, in terms of putting your presentation up and so on and that, but we'll get to other tips as we go forward. So with regard to this, so everyone understands the breakout room, right? Once this is enabled, and you'll know it's enabled because when you go to your Zoom session, you're gonna see a little button on the right side, sorry, on the right side called breakout rooms. It looks like tiles, different tiles together, and it's right down here. All right. And once that is clicked, then of course, you know, you'll see a little thing that pops up like this. So you can determine how many groups you'd like, how many persons you'd like to assign to each group. If you want to do this automatically or otherwise randomly, or if you would like to manually go in and put persons in groups. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it manually at the during the live session. But what Zoom allows you to do is pre-create or pre-assign persons to groups. All right. So you could do that, and of course you could do it like just from an Excel spreadsheet and you upload it and so on. And it's a different process, a slightly different process. But if you're doing it randomly or automatically, you just follow these steps and then you click create rooms. All right. So let me see. I'm thinking now, maybe I can let Jillian.
Hi.
Right. Are you seeing the feature to place breakout rooms, to enable breakout rooms?
Hold on.
I might probably have to make you the host again.
Yeah.
All right. So you can tell. I want you to tell us. So you could yeah. So everyone. I mean, I could do it, but I think it'll be more insightful for you to hear it from your side. So I'm going to make you the host, and you can let me see if you are seeing the breakout rooms feature.
Yes, I am. It's okay. four squares kind of set together.
So with that, I want you to, I don't want to necessarily break people up into breakout rooms. Let me give the host feature to someone else, so who would also be able to see, because I don't think you need to go into breakout rooms per se at this point in time, right? So what I need you to do, Jillian, could you make, could you make Paula the host?
Okay.
So you could X off that little create breakout rooms and you can make Paula the host.
Paula or Paula? Which one? We have a Paula.
Sorry,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Right, and you could see Paula has been made the host. And Paula, are you seeing the icon on your?
Yes, I'm seeing the breakout room icon.
Right, so click on breakout room icon.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you seeing now?
Assign 26 participants into however many rooms, if it's one or more than one.
Right. And of course, at that point, you would just create the number of groups, and it'll do it automatically, and you click create rooms. You're not doing it now, but I'm just saying, I'm walking you through to that.
Okay.
That's how you do it. So what I want you to do, Paula, can you make Godfrey the host?
Okay, so I'm going into the list of participants.
There we go. Go ahead.
And I'm going to more.
Correct.
Where Godfrey is not. Let me find Godfrey before.
Right.
Godfrey, there you are. More.
Right.
Come on. More. Make host. Yes.
There we go.
Yes. So yes. So he's
Great.
not host.
Godfrey, you could tell us if you got the notification that you're host.
Yes.
Right. And go into, so are you seeing the breakout rooms button now? It's at the bottom of the page on the right side.
Yeah. Yes, I'm seeing it.
Right. So click on it.
How many groups do you want me to create? How many rooms?
Right. So no, you're not creating the rooms just yet, but
okay.
I'm just showing you this. I'm walking you through the navigation of it.
Right.
Right. So at this point, when you're doing your class, you just set the number of the rooms that you want. And of course, I would recommend automatically at this point, and then create rooms, right? Let's do it with one more person. So I want you to pass it on to
Justin.
Sure.
Just before you go on, I think someone else was asking if you, it might have been Jillian, was asking about if you create this as an auto setup within this session, whether it would be the default across other sessions or whether you should do it separately each time.
Right. Good question. Good question. Yes, I'm seeing it in the chat. If it is enabled, it will go for all sessions in that that come under that particular account or license. All right. So I would recommend that by default you should set it, well, not by default, but I would recommend that you should set it to allow for breakout rooms, and it'll be up to the lecturer whether they use the breakout rooms or not. Yeah.
Yes. Good idea.
Because the last thing you want is, sometimes in a class, a session might sway in such a way that you might need to allow for, unless you might come up and you need to allow for breakout rooms. All right. And you might need to do, it might be almost as spontaneous, well, not spontaneous, but
Yes.
Yeah. And you want to use that feature. So I would recommend that you advise your administrators to enable that feature. Yeah. So,
thanks.
Sure, no problem. So Harold, sorry, not Harold, sorry, Godfrey, could you make me the host now, please?
Of course. So go back up to your name.
Sure.
Click on more.
Right.
And then make host.
There we go.
And ask for confirmation. All right.
There we go, right? So we see how easy it is. All right, now, and you would notice when you were made the host, you saw a whole, like a more expansive menu, correct?
Yes.
Right, including the breakout rooms. All right, and that's how easy it is, guys. Now, that same process, Godfrey, would be, you would use that to make students the co-host, for example. Yeah. So let's do it. Just let me take a couple more seconds. I will make David, do you mind if I make you the host? David? Okay, David probably stepped away for a while.
Yes, Josh, I did, sorry.
Sure. So can I make you the host just temporarily?
Okay.
All right, and you could pass it on to someone else. So I'm making you the host, and
right.
So are you seeing the breakout rooms feature? It's at the bottom of the screen on the right side, most likely.
Click on more.
Yes, sorry. Are you seeing it? David?
No.
It's sort of like a tile that, let me go to the slide before.
That's what I'm saying. Using an Android device is not quite so friendly.
Are you on a phone or a tablet or when you do?
No,
so
I don't have those things at the bottom on my Android device. So
right, if it's not at the bottom, it might very well be at the top of the screen.
Hello?
Wherever, are you seeing at all the green button called share screen?
Oh, no, there we go.
No?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once you're seeing the share screen button, it's usually on the right side. The breakout rooms feature.
What do you want me to do? Share it.
Right. So so what are you seeing now?
Right.
What are you seeing now? Are you seeing breakout rooms?
Something different to on your slides. Photo, document, web URL, screen. There we go. Let's try that.
Oh no! Don't share the screen yet. Don't share the screen. No. What I want you. Okay, let me take it from this angle. So what I want you to do is
what do you want me to do?
Go to the participants list. And I want you to select.
You keep breaking up as well.
Oh, I'm breaking up. Is everyone hearing me? Hello?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. So what I want you to do, David, it might be a connection issue, but I want you to go to the participants list. Are you seeing the participants?
Breaking up.
Okay, let me type it. So go to...
I got participants, yes. Right.
That's okay. That's okay. The participants list. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Or invite.
Right, fine. No, not invite. You would see participants.
Yes.
Find my name.
Your name. Right, yep.
Right?
Yes.
Good. And then hover the cursor over my name.
There's no cursor.
The arrow, sorry, the
on an Android device, there's no cursor.
Oh, right. Okay, so click on my name. Click on my name.
Yep.
And are you seeing a menu for more?
Yes, now we've got a menu, right.
Right. So when you see more, sorry, I think I sent it to, right. So when you see more, click on, when you click on more, what do you see?
Or more.
Oh,
I've got your name, mute chat, make host, make co-host, after start video.
So make host.
Make host, right. Click on it.
Right. And there we go.
Oh, sorry about all that.
No, that's no problem, man. But you know, I like that you got even the experience of the connection issue and you know the different layout and so on, because I think it's very insightful, and it allows persons to see what can happen. And yes, so I wasn't gonna say quite that, but yes, what can happen if you make a student the host. So this is a good example. You're very right. You're very right. I was gonna say that it's also an example of, you know, any sort of differences in terms or technical difficulties that students may encounter. Yeah. So yeah, so that was a very good example. Thank you for that, David, again. All right. Any questions, guys, so far?
Justin?
Yes.
I have a question about the breakout rooms. When you break out, can you go back at any point? Like you create smaller rooms, you leave them for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then what happens? Can you go back?
Yes, yes, definitely. I forgot. Very good question.
Okay.
That is true. It's just like, are you familiar with Blackboard Collaborate?
No, not at all.
Okay, so what you're gonna see is a button to end the breakout rooms. All right? You're gonna see a button to end the breakout rooms. As the host, you will see that.
Okay.
And that would bring everybody back into the main room. Now, what you would probably need to do is ensure that the participants are aware of the particular time allotted for a particular activity.
Right.
Yeah. And you as the host can also go into different rooms to manage or monitor what is going on in that room.
That was going to be my next question. So,
yeah. So that way, you know, students are doing all kind of things in the different rooms.
Okay.
Now, there's also a feature where you can enable students to record what goes on in their breakout rooms. That's a feature that Blackboard doesn't have as well. All right, and it's a very advanced feature. All right, and I could also send documentation with regard to that, the few steps to make that happen. Where, let's say, for example, you have 10 different groups or 12, you know, whatever large number of breakout rooms. You may not always be able to go and monitor each group. I'm just saying in extreme cases.
Yes.
In which case you can enable recordings of the breakout rooms.
Okay.
All right. So just something to think about at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Godfrey. Yes, definitely. In fact, that's what I was referring to, the co-host. I think it's usually the co-host who would be responsible for recording the breakout rooms. Sorry. Yeah. Any other questions? Hopefully does that answer your question, Godfrey? Yes, let co-host record. And that way it gives you a quicker, well, first of all, they'll need to be made co-hosts in their breakout rooms to record. I think that's a particular caveat that is there to allow recordings of breakout rooms. Now, the recordings of the breakout rooms, let me just say this. When you are finished with your recording, you will just get the recording of the main room. All right, that is the one that will be saved. Let's say if it's stored in the cloud, it'll store the main room, I believe it is on. Maybe I have it the other way around. But when you want the smaller breakout room recordings, I think that may be stored on your computer. Yeah, I can verify, but that is usually how it works. Yeah. So you would have the main room recording, and you would also have the, let's say, smaller tutorial groups kind of thing, recordings of those. All right. So of course, we know some of the benefits of breakout rooms. Of course, like I said, look at that, allows for recording of individual group sessions. It's stored in, right, so I was right, okay, good. It's stored on your computer for subsequent review. The small sessions I'm referring to as well. And like I said before, it allows for pre-assignment of persons to specific breakout rooms. And of course, above all of that, it allows for collaboration and engagement. All right? Now, the next thing we're gonna move very quickly into would be polls. Now, this here on the right, on the left side would be just the process to create a poll in your particular session. And when I say a poll that is built into the Zoom, a Zoom poll in other words. All right. You would see at the very bottom of the screen, most of you may see it, and you can see it in the graphic here, polls, and then add a question. All right. When you add a question, well, I'm making it sound very simple, but it's very simple to be quite honest. You would normally see a separate window appear where you would be prompted to insert your question. Now, unlike Blackboard, where you can't pre-create or prepare your poll well in advance, in Zoom, it's recommended to do it before the session. All right. And if you look on the right side here, we see what the poll looks like. All right. Who is the first person to graduate, right? And of course, you could launch a poll. So you see what it looks like before it's launched. So here's what I'm going to do. I already created a poll, and I'm going to assign any of my co-hosts. Let's say, I want to say Harold, but let me not, let me not pick on Harold.
Don't say so.
Okay. All right, so Adele? Adele?
I'm here, but straddling two meetings. Please, not me.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry.
I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Ashad Mohammed? Okay, great. Can I make you the co-host? Okay, so I'm making you the co-host. And can you let me know if you see polls appear at the bottom of your screen? Okay, great. So what I want you to do, Ashad, is click on that icon, polls. And what do you see? You could text it to me in the chat. The option to launch a poll. And are you seeing a question in that, a question already there, correct? That's it. So just pause for a minute. So this is what I was telling you guys, that you have to create the poll in advance. All right. And I can probably do a quick little tutorial video just to show you how to do that subsequent to this session. All right. Okay, so let me take you. So I know you, right? So you seem to know exactly. After that, it's just to launch a poll, right? We wouldn't launch it just yet. Let me take it to someone else. Cheryl. Cheryl, are you there?
Yes, Justin, I am on a tablet, so I'm not sure if this would affect what we're going to do, but go ahead.
All right, no problem. It's just for you to see the button and walk you through the steps. So, okay, so I just made you the co-host. Are you seeing the poll button or icon? Usually it's next to share on the left side.
Okay, let me see.
If not, you might have to click on see more.
I'm searching.
All right. You just see like a bar chart, or is it a histogram or bar chart? No?
Nope. I'm using Amazon tablet, so it doesn't have a lot of features.
Right. Now, this is a good thing that is bringing up for you guys as well, right? Now, even though you're using a tablet, it's there. It's probably, you just need to navigate a little bit to find it, just like David. All right. Now, Zoom, and you would notice if you attend a Zoom meeting, have you ever attended a Zoom, anybody that is, attended a Zoom meeting on your phone? All right. The navigation might be a little different than if it were a desktop, right? So just be mindful of that. And I think that is what David was referring to earlier in the session. But it's not that it's not there or it's not compatible or anything like that. It's just that the way to navigate would be a little different. One of the main reasons for that, of course, would be, you don't necessarily have a cursor or a mouse that would go, let's say if you had a laptop or a Mac. All right?
Seeing
no
more.
Uh-huh.
But under more, all I'm seeing is disconnect audio, chat, and meeting settings.
Okay. All right. Let me just see. Right. Oh, I made you the host. Okay. How did All right. So go to my name. Go to my participants, Cheryl.
Okay, I'm in participants. Uh-huh.
Right. And you can look for my name there, please.
Where are you?
You can do a search for my name. Just type Justin.
Okay, found you.
Right. So just click on my name.
Uh-huh.
And you should see, what are you seeing? More?
Yeah, mute, chat, make host, make co-host, ask to start video, rename.
Good. Click on make host, please.
Do you want to change the host to Justin? Yes. Uh-huh. That.
Right, great. Yes, Ashad, it has that to reclaim the host after you've made someone else the host. Yes, you can do that. But I have a lot of things going on my screen at the moment, so I didn't want to confuse that as well. So good. So so Ashad, do you still have but I still have you as co-host. Can you implement or launch that poll that you saw? Right. So you guys are seeing it there. And it's giving a time as to how long persons, so just, right. Oh, great. So it tells you how many persons responded, a percentage, as well as the duration of the poll. So far, the poll has been going on for about 25 seconds, and we have 11 responses in 25 seconds. It'll give you an overall, very basic analytics, as I'm not sure if you're seeing that, but so for example, 54% of the entire class voted. Out of that 54%, well, 100% said yes, right? Ashad, are you seeing that as well? Yeah? Right, you're seeing the same stats, good. And I'm sure the other co-hosts are seeing the stats as well, correct? Paula, are you seeing that?
Yes, I am.
Right. All right, that's Paula.
Yes, I'm seeing it. Yes, I'm seeing it.
Paula. I know it sounds the same. I'll probably use the last name. All right. So yes, so it gives you a good idea in terms of the engagement of the student as well. If the student is actually paying attention, or how many students are paying attention. If it's half of the class, if it's, you know, of course, it'll also indicate what their views are with regard to a particular, whatever the poll is looking at, all right, or focusing on. And to end the poll, you just click on end poll, and that's it. All right. Paula?
Yes.
Professor Morgan, could you relaunch the poll? Just so you have that.
Oh my. Really now. Okay, just a minute. I seem to be on an old screen here, and it's stuck. Because I'm seeing another live screen behind this. The screen I am seeing, Justin, it's your window. It's your, I'm viewing your screen.
Right. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
But there's another screen behind it which may be live, but I'm not getting to it.
Okay, try the Alt and Tab feature.
Okay.
And that would take you to the different pages.
Right. Okay, so this is the live screen, and then this one, have you, no, this is something else. All right. I'm seeing a lot of things have.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Better ask somebody else because I'm going to, okay. I don't know how I stuck though.
All right, no problem at all. So let's try.
Okay, let's do a little test. Since I'm a co-host, I can share my screen, right? So if I share screen, you could tell me what's wrong with me.
Okay, no problem. Let's try that.
Let me share the screen.
To share the screen, you'll have to pick a particular page.
Well, it's the host disabled participant screen sharing. All right, so no, I can't share the screen. All right, never mind. I'm listening. Never mind.
Right,
go ahead.
No problem at all. So let's take, let me see, Chanel?
Yes. Hello.
Right. All right, Chanel. So let me see if I could, let me use someone else. If you don't mind, Chanel, is that okay?
Oh, that's fine.
Sandra? Could I use you, Sandra?
Yes, sure. Sure, I'm here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to make you the co-host. All right. And so I just made you the co-host, Sandra.
Yes.
So what I want you to do is click on polls. You should see at the bottom of your screen.
Yes, I see polling, yes.
Right, so click on that, and what are you seeing then?
I'm seeing a question.
Right.
With yes, 17, no, 0.
Right.
100%, yes.
And are you seeing a feature to relaunch that poll?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and relaunch that poll, please.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
And we see it there as well, right?
Yeah.
And look, we have, so just guys, so just click on it again. I don't mean to make you do the same thing again.
Okay.
So good. So we have some people voting. Already 50%. And I'm doing this just so at least, you get to see, look, be familiar with the look and feel of it, and kind of what to do, to navigate through the platform. So already we have 66% of persons who voted. All right. And from there, so Ashad, or let me stick with Paula, right? Could you end the poll?
Is that Paula or Paola?
Oh, Paula, sorry.
But I'm not a co-host.
Oh, you're not a co-host. Okay, I didn't realize I took that off. I'm sorry. Professor Morgan.
Yes, I actually left and I am still on the stuck screen. I'm not
all right, that's no problem.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I left the meeting and came back in, but it didn't make a difference.
That's no problem. I think, are you seeing the screen that I'm sharing, right? That's the main thing.
I am seeing your shared screen.
Okay, great.
It still has the first person to graduate, Pike and all these people.
Okay, good. But you're not seeing the poll.
Well, I'm just seeing that poll. Yeah, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. This thing here.
Okay.
So are you seeing end poll at that particular, at the bottom of that poll?
No, I am not seeing it. I'm seeing launch poll with your arrow, and then there's an arrow pointing below to a number of items that are obscured. I can't properly see them because
I think because you're not and right. So Paula made mention of it. I think when you came back in, it may have taken off the co-host feature.
Could it be that?
Yeah,
it could be that.
Yeah, that probably happened. Okay, so that's no problem. Harold, could you end the poll?
Okay, I'll end the poll.
Right. Good. So Harold just ended the poll.
Yes.
Ashad, could you share results, please? Right. So we all see what the results are. Yeah. And that's basically how you can use the poll feature to engage students. And you could create, numerous polls that you could use throughout your particular session. And the reason, and let me stop sharing the results. Good, thank you so much for that, guys. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's a way of engaging your students. It might even segue to different topics that would need to be addressed along the way, depending on what the polls actually show. Yeah? Any questions on that so far? No? Okay. All right. So far we looked at making your students presenters. We also looked at annotations. We also looked at, of course, the settings, how to create the, create the settings that would allow you to use different features in Zoom. We looked at breakout rooms. We looked at polls. And these are all features within Zoom, as you see, and hopefully it's fairly easy to use so far, correct or no? Yeah?
Yes, it's reasonable, yes.
Okay, great. I could take reasonable. All right. But there are other platforms that you could use to engage your students. So for example, we have Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere is the same platform I used at the beginning of the session with the icebreaker. All right. And it's very easy to use. Those of you who may have attended a workshop I did, but back then it would have been face-to-face. Cool Tools in Education. Poll Everywhere was a tool that I use. And it's very easy. I can send you the documentation and some short tutorial vids that would help help you navigate that. There's also Kahoot. We also did a workshop on that some previous time, some years ago. All right. And these games, of course, Jeopardy, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, all these are external platforms that you can use to engage your students. So for example, something like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If I were to pull up a game now, I could have that. In fact, I was doing it in a session just yesterday. I could share that screen and have students reply accordingly, whether it's in groups, whether it's collectively, that sort of thing. So keep in mind, guys, that I think even though, yes, this current pandemic or dispensation has provided a few hurdles, it has given the opportunity for us to be a little more innovative, a little more flexible with what we can do in the live classroom. So for example, you may not have been able to necessarily pull up a Jeopardy or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game or Kahoot in your face-to-face session because of poor internet quality, but now you could do it in your virtual session and thereby make your session a lot more engaging. All right? Any questions on that so far? And like I said, the main way to do this, of course, is just to pull it up in a full screen, whatever platform you want to use, whether it's Jeopardy, Kahoot, whatever the platform is, you just pull it up, share your screen, and that's it. You go forward with it. And while sharing your screen, you're able to monitor the chat like I'm doing right now. All right, so.
So Justin, just a quick question. So what you're saying, so for example, with Jeopardy, it's not a plugin or it cannot be integrated into Zoom. You have to use it as a separate platform.
Correct.
That's just communicate via Zoom or have feedback via Zoom.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right. Exactly. Zoom would just provide a platform for you to communicate or to facilitate the sharing of that game. Yeah. In terms of inserting videos, Professor Morgan, that you wouldn't be able to embed a video in Zoom. The only way there are two ways you can do it. You can, if it's a YouTube video, for example, you can simply put the link in the chat and ask students to give students, let's say, depending on the time of the video, the duration, you might want to give them 3 minutes to look at it. And then follow up with a poll or a class discussion. Or you could do the same and just embed the video into your presentation, your PowerPoint presentation. So when you share the presentation, that's okay. If the video is on CD, you just go to the same tab and Alt and Tab feature I explained before. let's say if that CD, the video is playing via Windows Media, right, on a PC, then you just go to that particular window and it'll follow through, it'll show. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're just sharing your screen. So whatever is on your screen will be seen by the students.
All right, so what you're saying is that you play the video on your own system and you share the screen and they will see it. Correct. Good.
Correct. Right? And that allows for, and of course, because now you know the Alt or Command and Tab, it makes it a little more efficient if you have to switch between the CD and the video on a CD and your presentation. If it's a short video that you think you can embed into your PowerPoint presentation, because PowerPoint allows that, then that makes it even better. You don't have to split, you know, between two screens. All right. So we move very quickly into recordings. It shouldn't be too complicated. It's a very simple step. And a lot of it will depend on the back end side of it. So now you see why I was spending a little time to go through the configuration of the meeting before we actually deal with the delivery, all right, of the actual session. The LAN administrator or the technician or whoever's managing the account is gonna have to determine this particular setting. Now you could have, it could be set in such a way that the recording is stored within the Zoom account, right? Or it can be done in such a way where the recording is stored on your particular machine, all right? No problem, we might actually finish in a couple minutes, just a couple slides and that's it. So keep that in mind. So you can store it on your machine, your local computer, or in the cloud, all right? Either way, it allows you to share, all right? Now, as you see the steps here, of course, this is just to set it and then to access the meeting, the recording. And if you look at step 3 here, right? In the actual account, it actually shows you can record, sorry, the video and also the chat. Or you can even have it as an MP3. So let's say if it's just something that, you know, a student could listen to on their phones and, you know, I don't think as many people use iPods now, but, you know, you have different formats, all right? Audio only, video and audio, hyperlink, MP4, that sort of thing. And it's downloadable, all right? Now, in your case, I would recommend that you share the link or the actual MP4 if it's downloaded on your machine. You could share that in My Learning. I think when David raised a question earlier in terms of the use of it and so on, next to Blackboard, this is one thing that you manually have to do. With Blackboard, the recording is stored in My Learning by default. With Zoom, you're gonna have to get the link or the recording, which might very well be on your desktop, and upload it into My eLearning, all right? I would even recommend that you save the link, save the video, the MP4, in your, if you have a Google Drive, that would work, or YouTube channel, that would work as well. So it wouldn't be too much space or strain on My eLearning specifically. All right, so you're just gonna share the link to that video in My eLearning. Any questions about that? Okay. All right, so let's, and like I said, this is what it looks like when you wanna access. Okay, no problem, Harold and Paula. Thanks for that. Look out for the evaluation, by the way, guys, and I'll get to it in a little bit, but the evaluation would have been sent to you via the email you registered with. All right, now, just so you know, sure, one is I'm just reading Godfrey. Let me just. Okay, a good thing, well, besides the fact that as a presenter, you want to make sure you are, as face-to-face in teachers, we could, I may not be able to go in depth, but I could give some tips. One thing you want to do is be able to read the room. We say it a lot when it's a face-to-face room, but you can also do it in a virtual room. All right. You want to, and you would observe it as best as possible. Hopefully I was able to demonstrate it. Just look at this session here. I was asking questions to make sure we all understand. When I realized things were a little quiet, I tried to switch things up a little bit. For example, the annotation activity, I brought that up a little bit. So be able to read the room, and when I say read, even though it's a virtual room, it's always a red flag when the room is very quiet and you are the only one talking. So I would recommend raising questions, whether it's via a poll, via a question in the chat, or via audio. Raise questions, right? Not just questions to ask if they are understanding what's going on, but let them be able to do certain things in your session, especially if it's a 2-hour session or longer. You want to be mindful of that. Additionally, I wouldn't recommend going too far beyond 2 hours. Right, no problem, sure. So yes, so I would recommend, try to keep it between 1 to 2 hours, well, 2 hours tops, because you know, that's saturation. And for some people, it's for your students, it's still an adjustment to learning online, to remain attentive via this kind of delivery, yeah? And because it's something that also I think this would be the 4th or 5th tip, keep in mind that students have a lot more distractions via this type of delivery, as opposed to if it were face-to-face. With face-to-face, I mean, they're in the room, they're there, and you know they're attentive. Yes, you know that problem, right? But when it's virtual, a student could be, they have your meeting or your session on, and they could be in the kitchen making something to eat and not following with what's going on, which is why it's so important to ask questions, to engage them on that level. And that's why I spend that time on engagement. All right, no problem, Elizabeth. Let me just wrap up very quickly. So this is what it looks like, and hopefully, Godfrey, that answers some, provides a few tips, about 5 tips I gave there. No problem. And yes, and of course a recap, and you'll see it as I go forward. So let me just wrap up in about 2 minutes. So this is what it looks like to access the Zoom recording when it's on your desktop. All right, or sorry, your documents. It'll create a folder. If you look at the address, right, it's this PC, documents, Zoom folder, and the actual recording. All right. So, and here we go. So this is a quick recap. We looked at setting up the Zoom session and a host of other things. And then we spent a lot of time really in activities for engagement. So we looked at, and of course, making students the presenters, enabling breakout rooms, and almost implementing them. Annotations. We looked at polls. We looked at, there was something else, I think the 5th thing we looked at, I can't remember right now. And of course, it was kind of a sandwich, if I were to put it like that. I want to say a hamburger, but, I guess a sandwich of some sort. So we have the top layer, which is creating the session, or even the bottom layer, sorry, creating the session, and ensuring that the settings are correct or preferable, for example, enabling breakout rooms and so on, right? Then we have the middle section, which was really the engagement. So you had implementing the breakout rooms or annotations, polls, even using games and so on inside there. Sorry, I'm seeing Godfrey. Yeah, you could, well, Zoom will create a folder by default. And you could just take that folder and move it to your desktop if you need to. But Zoom, they would create a folder for you. All right, and of course, and that brings us to the recording part, which we just looked at. Godfrey, you could let me know if I answered that question. Okay, great. So this brings us to the end of the session, guys. Hopefully, oh, and we're 3 o'clock on the dot. So, we were able to cover these things and more, I would like to think so, in terms of the pros and cons of Zoom, and then of course Zoom versus Blackboard Collaborate and so on. We looked at the different ways you can engage your students and, even presenting and, hopefully it was really beneficial to you guys. And like the curtain closed, no problem. And I like to play with PowerPoint. So, these are things, depending on the type of presentation, there are certain things I would do, to make sure that you don't fall asleep on me too. So right, and of course to access the recording, which we just looked at. Any questions? And while questions are being either typed or verbalized here, verbally communicated, Godfrey, another tip I would give would be to have a printout of your PowerPoint for you to follow. Sometimes you could have your PowerPoint printed, like the slides or the notes page. So that would also, no problem, Jillian, thanks so much for that. And Paula, that would give you an idea if any technical difficulty should arise. For all my sessions, I like, whether it's online or face-to-face, I like to have a hard copy because, with technology, you never know when the technology might either fail you or give some trouble, yeah? So it could be you have that little small percentage of it being a little unpredictable. So I like to have something I could hold on to an anchor, basically, if the sea should get turbulent. All right, and that guides you in terms of knowing, okay, how many slides you have to go, still, how, what's coming next, that kind of thing. Now, because Zoom is more of a share screen feature as opposed to Blackboard, which allows you to see gives you a precursory view of the slides that will come. It will, you definitely might need to print out or have some sort of outline of your presentation. Yeah. So, and yes, definitely. Thank you. I totally forgot about that. Definitely. I would recommend, guys, that if you're doing a Zoom session, even if it's for a large class or not a medium-sized class, try to do it with someone else. Have a co-host, yeah? Because in the event that, sometimes you might be taken up in the delivery. And when I say the delivery, the presentation and the activities and so on, and you might need someone to pay attention to the chat, or, if someone has a question or raise a query that they can't hear you, that sort of thing, it could be a lot. So you want to try, at least for the first 2 or 3 times, you have a colleague with you to pay attention to these things. All right? At least until you get fully comfortable with it. Now, guys, there's a workshop evaluation. Thanks so much, Victor, and everyone so far. Renuka, there's a workshop evaluation which would have been sent. It's a link, a very short hyperlink. You should have gotten it in the email, whatever email you use to register for this session. You should see the link there. All right. One more thing. There's a workshop. I'm not sure how many of you signed up for that workshop on preparing your course for remote teaching and learning. A little bit of it, very little, very, very little, would be on Zoom and Blackboard, but that's like at the end of it, more or less. But I think it might be worthwhile. There's one, I think, on this Thursday, and there's another one next week. So look out for that. You might be interested in that. It'll just give you a sort of a bird's eye view of everything you need to be aware of or have as you prepare your courses for remote teaching and learning, as per the memo from the principal earlier this week. All right. So once again, thanks so much, guys, for attending and for your participation. And hopefully it was worthwhile and beneficial to you. And feel free, if you have any additional questions or concerns, or even if you encounter a problem, or even if you like the recording, or anything for that matter, feel free to send me an email. All right. And I'll be happy to help as best I can. All right. No problem, Ashad. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. You're most welcome, Prof. You're welcome, Chanel. Thanks for attending and participating as well. Thanks, Cheryl. All right, have a good afternoon, everyone. All right, and like I said, feel free to shoot me an email if you need any support or have any questions, okay? You're welcome, Indira and Godfrey. All right, have a great afternoon, everyone.